Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Kerri Nevin of Heartlight Psychological Services. I am a doctor of clinical psychology and a wellness coach certified by the Mayo Clinic. And I created the Let's Talk series to support other people who are advocates for mental health and mental well-being. And today we have an incredibly special guest. We have Jacqueline Berger. And I want to talk a little bit about how did we get here, Jacqueline, you and I? I interviewed your stepdaughter, Rochelle Weinstein, who is a published author. I think she's on her eighth novel now, incredible. And I had an interest in talking with people who had had music specifically play a role in supporting their mental well-being and their mental health. And I asked Rochelle, do you know of anyone? And she said, give me a few days. I want to really think about this. And a few days later, she contacted me and she said, you know what, I think I have the perfect person. I have my stepmom, Jacqueline Berger. And, I believe music actually saved her. And I think that she would be a perfect person for you to speak with. So that was the origin of how Jacqueline and I got here today. So I would like to give a very special introduction to you, Miss Jacqueline Berger. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story with me and with us.
You are so welcome. It is such a pleasure to meet you and to be here in the space together and to talk about my passion, music. So fire away.
All right. Well, can you just start off with a little bit of background, Jacqueline? Where was your interest and love of music? Like how was that ignited? Like, did you just come in with it? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Apparently, I did come in with it at an early age and was always there, never really quite figured it out why it was there, but it was there. At a very young age, I had asked my parents to get me a keyboard, a piano. And I think back in like the 50s and 60s, I think every household had a stand-up piano, right? I mean, it was like a natural thing for a house to have a piano and piano lessons to be given to the children in the house. And somehow, I'm sorry to say that I don't see that as much anymore. It would be nice if there was that same tradition.
Yeah.
But in any event, my parents did go ahead and buy a keyboard for me, and I was maybe 10 or 12 at the time. And unfortunately, they never followed up with any lessons. So it was quite interesting. And I think because I was the baby of four children, four older siblings, they were very busy with work and obviously committed to 19 zillion other things dealing with four kids. So it was a little unfortunate for me because I was the last one and I think they were just tired and whatever. It was what it was. So, but it was always inside me. And as I grew up and I got older and got married and had children, it was still a major part of something that I wanted to pursue. It's been a very serendipitous journey for me because really what happened was I was 100 like just compelled to learn how to play an instrument as well as learn how to sing. I think that life is funny and we take different turns and things happen. And during the around 2006, my stepmother passed away, and she had left an indelible mark on me. And I think somehow in her way or her spirit or her energy in the afterlife, it was like at that time after she passed away, seeing how my sorrow, because it was the first time I'd actually lost somebody that close to me. And something lit up in my mind and I think it was her saying to me in her afterlife, I want you to pursue this music career that you've really always had in you. And for some reason, I wasn't able to provide for you while I was here. And I know that sounds a little out there, but I have definitely received messages from her. And I do feel that she is the reason why I ended up pursuing things at that time. And by then I was a little older in life and had already had my children. They were already grown up, but something really this dream of mine that I always had. So I joined I got on the internet and I started looking for a band that I could or some other musicians that I could jam with in Miami, and came across this this website where you had to fill out this application, basically a profile of how many times have you gigged, how many, how often do you practice, what's your education, what is your background in music. And having had zero of that, I literally just was honest and said 0, 0, 0, 0, and then clicked send, figuring this person's never going to reach out to me. And lo and behold, he did. And I don't know why, but he got in touch with me, and when I said to him, I have no experience whatsoever. I had some singing lessons, just a few at the time, but no experience actually doing anything in front of an audience. He said, well, I think you might be the perfect person for us because we can work together. And we liked, he just felt like there was a good energy between us. And I really have to say, it's those kinds of experiences where when you least expect, that almost reassures you that it's meant to be. So through him, I was able to join their band. There was a wonderful gal, the lead singer at the time, and she started coaching me. And we would get up and we would practice together, and it was a weekly thing. And I'd get up, I'd leave my apartment at 7 o'clock at night and not get home till 11. And it was and drive into West Miami or South Miami or wherever the band was going to be practicing. And it was an interesting observing myself that I was so compelled to do this, in spite of the fact that it was a little bit of outside my normal realm of routine. But again, it was just that push inside me. And I think it was my mom who was basically saying, you need to do this. This is who you are. Mm-hmm. So I did pursue it with them, and it was great. We had a really good time. But I remember the first gig that we had down in Perrine, Florida, and it was just hilarious. I mean, it was just one of these no one goes to this bar, but it's always your first gig is always in a dive bar kind of a situation. I mean, it was great. But it was really the start of what was to come for me, which was just to be, as much as I could pursue an avenue where I could be involved in a room, in a studio, working with other musicians. It just kind of compelled me to keep going, and I did. And so I left that band because it was time for me to move on to another, and was then invited to this other band, and that went great. And I started to get up and do a little bit more in singing, but didn't know how to play an instrument at this time. I was just basically singing and having a really good time with that. The members of that band, who was a bass player, guitar player, incredible musician, Jose Garcia, asked me if I would like to go out with him, and he and I just do our own thing together, maybe form our own band, have a trio with a percussionist, Jose on guitar, and me singing. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we auditioned for the Hard Rock Cafe, the Hard Rock Hotel in Fort Lauderdale. We had a regular gig there every month for a while. I mean, it was so the pleasure to see these people come in, and you knew you were engaging, and they were enjoying the music and the personal artistic expression. For me to be able to see that and see people light up just hearing the music and playing was just so rewarding for me. And I guess that's what the compelling wasn't just about learning how to play an instrument, which by then I still didn't know how to play an instrument, but it was just about the self-expression and being able to sing in front of somebody and not be so nervous, So he and I are still playing together, and he has taught me so much. And again, it was it's all these people that came in, so serendipitously, meant to be, yeah, who totally in my own, because I'd never been classically trained. I'd never had any education other than vocal lessons at that time. So I then decided, well, okay, I really enjoy this whole, atmosphere of the microphone and the music and the audience, that I wanted to learn how to play the piano, and go back to the time that my parents bought me this keyboard when I was 10 or 12 years old, but never had a lesson. So now we're fast forwarding 20, 30 years, and I have this piano teacher come to my apartment and start giving me lessons. And he's going to give me lessons traditionally, which is to learn how to read music and, notes on a staff. And I remember sitting there going, this is so daunting. I mean, this is going to take me forever to learn one song. if I have to figure out where the notes on a staff are and this and that. So I had several lessons with him. I did get discouraged, and I thought, you know, maybe I'm just not meant to know how to play the piano. And so I gave it up and continued, you know, just singing and playing music with friends of mine and let them accompany me who could play the guitar or a keyboard. So fast forward, I was also at the time lucky enough to be working in LA. I was going back and forth between Miami and Los Angeles at the time. I'm originally from LA, so it was like a home away from home. And a very dear friend of mine who's an entertainment attorney, a guy by the name of Larry Katz, decided he would take me on as a client. I again got very, very lucky by this gentleman saying, you know, I think there's something there for you. Let's see if we can, you know, I'm like a nobody, and you know, but like, let's see what she can do.
Yeah.
And he brought me into several collaborations with these beautiful young artists in LA, where I was able to sit with them and co-write. I did a little bit of writing, and I still do some writing and lyrics and songs. And he allowed me that opportunity to sit with these young artists who were kind of looking up to me, and in my own way I was looking up to them. It was like this whole mutual beautiful arrangement. And again, what comes out is the artistic creativity, which is just, it's everything for me.
Yeah.
It truly is everything to me. And I learned so much from these very young, incredibly talented musicians, singers in LA. And while I was out there, the urge came back to me again to learn how to play an instrument, because although I loved to sing, I also had to rely on another person to come in to play the instrument for me.
Right.
I could like sing a cappella. So while I was in LA, I was inquiring about where I could take maybe guitar lessons, because I thought maybe the guitar would be easier to learn than the piano. And so I actually did go to this great place in West LA called McCabe's, and it's been around since the 60s, and nothing has changed. And literally, you walk in, and it's just like, it's just it's just fun. It creaks, the stairs creak, it's all wood, you know, it's old. There's like an index file where you take out your index card, it's got your name on it, and it has these little pink tickets, and you give the ticket to, you know, it's just not never advanced tech with, you know, in terms of technology and computers, nothing. It doesn't exist. But it was so, the feeling in there, the energy in there. I had learned that so many rockers, you know, of the 60s, 70s, 80s had walked through this place, get their guitars repaired there. Some of Jackson Brown, Tom Petty. I mean, it was just like a list of you know, legendary musicians. So I again really connected to the energy in that room and in that space. And lucky for me, again, I meet this incredible guitar teacher who is, you know, so literally it's a 30-minute lesson. I signed up for 10 lessons, and I go, and he said, one of the first things he said to me, which really resonated, was, Jackie, you don't need to learn to read music to play the guitar. You just need to memorize the chords on the neck of the guitar. And if you can memorize like 3 or 4 chords, then slowly you'll be able to memorize, and you can play music. And I thought, wow, that's all I need to do. You just teach me the chords, because I can't read the music. It was just wasn't registering. Mm-hmm. So I had these lessons with him. I slowly began to learn how to play the guitar, and I don't know, a light bulb went off. And one day I thought, well, if you can memorize the chords on the neck of a guitar, why can't you memorize the chords on a keyboard? So that was like the thrust to get me, well, maybe I can do that. And then, of course, it was my dear friend Larry Katz who was representing me and said, okay, here's a song that I want you to learn how to play on the piano. And I know you can do it. And it was Casey Musgrave's great song. And I said, I can't do that. He goes, yes, you can. And he just, once again, it was that push.
Yeah.
And I have to thank him from the bottom of my heart, because he literally was the catalyst for me to sit down and find on the internet various applications, various apps, YouTube videos that teach people like me who can't read music how to play an instrument. Wow. By learning how to place your fingers, where the finger placement on a keyboard, and memorizing chords. And all of a sudden it kind of came to me. And so through the help of these applications, there's one called Chordify, which I highly recommend. It's Chordify
Mhm.
for a person who wants to learn how to play, who just wants to learn where to put your fingers, how to do the scales, just the basics. And then from there, begin to play some music. So because I had had experience with lyrics and sitting with my guitarist who had the chords written above the lyrics, I figured out, well, if I'll print out the lyric. This is like so old fashioned because now I do it on my iPad through Unsong, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much easier. But I would print out the lyric and then literally go to this app called Chordify and through by listening with my ear, figure out where the chord goes on top of the lyric, so that as you're playing, you'd sing the song, and then and then the chord would come in, and that's when you would change chords. So I mean, it started to work for me, and
Wow.
through just practice and years of like, well, it's literally I learned how to play the piano during the COVID pandemic because
Oh,
the time allotted itself for me to. I mean, we were
right.
inside, we weren't doing anything, and
Yeah.
it was like 2019 is when I was having the guitar lessons in LA.
Mhm.
And then 2020 was when the pandemic hit. And that's when I said, you know what, maybe now's the time for me to really dedicate myself to learning. The passion, the need, it was like almost uh just like it was there. It was just like I had to see how this could evolve. How could this, how could I learn how to do this? Because I know it's there.
Mhm.
And in many ways, the COVID was a silver lining. COVID
Yes.
dedicate to learning how to play music in this way
Yeah.
without reading music. So through just hours of practice, and I've pretty much now learned how to play the piano quite well,
Wow.
and elevated my game, and to the point now where I perform on my own, and I can sing now with a microphone and play the piano, and be able to engage that audience that I love so much. So I know that you were questioning me about what is it, how has it fulfilled me and my mental well-being.
Mhm.
It's everything. It
Mhm.
has been everything for me. Um, I, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have um, this area of this passion that I spend time doing almost on a daily basis.
Mhm.
I don't know how I would fill my time otherwise. It's been a gift. It's truly been a gift.
I
And
mean,
just to persevere.
it's
Yeah.
an amazing story, and I get the feeling when you talk about it, Jacqueline, that you like you had to get it out.
Had to
Like
get
you just
out.
I gotta get this out, whatever this is. And when you're playing, you're like running this energy through you that feels so amazing that it's got like your soul print on it and your capacity to like allow yourself to be seen and to be known and available for connection. And oh my gosh, like what a gift. What a gift to you, what a gift to us.
Mm.
And this is something that you are always doing, you're doing currently?
Currently, yes, yes. It's the love of my life besides my children and my husband. Absolutely, just I don't know how to describe it. I can remember being pregnant with my first daughter and married to my former husband, and insisted that we go out. We just moved into this house together, but insisted that we go out and buy a little baby mini grand piano just to put into the living room. And it's because I desperately wanted to play this piano. And we got the piano, we put it in the living room. And unfortunately, I then had my daughter, and, raising
Oh,
her.
did he?
But I would have dreams at that time, when this is going back, 20, 30 years now. I would dream of sitting me, I, that I'm sitting at this beautiful grand piano playing it.
Wow.
And it was frustrating for me because, of course, then there was no time to put aside for that as I was
Right.
raising the children and working. But it was like always there. It was always there. So for me at this stage in my life to have come full circle and to be able to do it, it's the gift that I was, and I thank my mother, who passed away, who said, in her after whatever energy thoughts coming to me, you need to do this. This is something that's there for you, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for it.
I'm so grateful that you're here to share this because I think that the message I'm getting is listen to yourself, listen to your heart. When your heart is telling you something, you know, it's there for a reason. Like that message, that push, that like, okay, I need to do this. It's there for a reason. And I think sometimes people get into a game with themselves where it's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure." And, performing is kind of a big deal. Like, talk about a step into vulnerability and allowing yourself to be seen by, the people. It's a big
No
deal.
question. Yeah, and there's no question that it's the energy is well, it's contagious for me at this point, but it's also, it's a it's a rush. It's just an incredible feeling. I have to say, that you were saying, listening to your heart, but like I don't know if you this happens to you, but oftentimes I'll just get this like thought in my mind, and I don't know where it came from. And I've learned as I've gotten a little bit older to really pay attention to that, listen to it because it's coming for a reason.
Yes.
Um, and to not be afraid, and take the risks. And listen, I had some really bad gigs, I have to tell you.
I think that must
LA.
be happen to
No,
everybody,
no,
right?
there were a couple of really bad ones, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to do this again. I mean, the
Really.
sound was terrible. I was flat because, the guy wasn't paying
Here.
attention. I have these things, these earplugs in my ears, and I think I'm sounding great, but I listen to the playback and I sound terrible. And I had an audience there, and I'm like, why wasn't anybody telling me you sound so bad?
Oh my God.
But like, yes, that's when you do want to give up. But again, like if it's, I think it was just there that it was never, I would never be able to give it up. I had to pursue it at all cost, truly.
Well, and
And
you talk about, I was lucky. I was lucky. And I don't know, for me, I'm always feeling like coincidences are more like synchronicity, like it's meant to be. And because you had this love, and it really, I mean, isn't that just the highest vibration, the highest emotion is love? So you can't help but draw in, those other people that are going to help you get from point A to point B. And it just sounds like it happened over and over and over again for you.
it was absolutely a steamroll kind of effect. I mean, it just, once it started, it just kept happening and kept going. And I know that it was me who was attracting that energy, or that person who, where you have a conversation, and they're like, yeah, let's see if we can do this. And yeah, let's see. And to this day, Kerri, I'm doing that. I'm literally reaching to people here in New York. Can you want to come over? And most of the musicians that I've met here don't want to go home and jam because they've been jamming like professionally. But there are these great musicians who want to go home and jam.
Uh-huh.
And so, it's just a constant, something that I explore constantly to meet and play with other musicians. And lo and behold, they keep popping up, and, finding opportunities to do these things. It has been really the greatest joy of my life to be able to have finally learned how to play the piano, even though
Wow.
I'm self-taught. And let me tell you, I'm very self-taught, but it doesn't sound bad. It sounds really pretty. And when I can play with another musician where they're playing another instrument, and the timing and the listening and the hearing, and it all comes together and it sounds beautiful. I feel really blessed that I can do it, that I've kind of figured it out. And then, you come across musicians who have the same story.
Is there, or has there been an instance where you were challenged emotionally in your life that you feel music was like a lifesaver for you? Is there anything that you would feel comfortable sharing with regard to that?
Well, there have been quite a few. So to give you a little bit more background, I never knew either of my parents. My mother who raised me was my stepmother.
Mhm.
And she had married my father when I was 16 months old. So she met me when I was 6 months old. Um, my biological mother passed away when I was 2 weeks old, not even 2 weeks, excuse me, 9 days old, of an unknown brain trauma.
I'm so sorry.
And,
My goodness.
and I know, and she was a singer and a dancer. And yeah, so it was
Where it
there.
comes from, I've seen
DNA there big time. But
downloaded.
unfortunately, I feel like had she been there for me, I would have definitely had those early childhood lessons and been able to really pursue things from the start. But she wasn't, and but I did have this amazing stepmother who raised me, but she didn't connect to the music for me, so much. I then found out and later on in life, many years later, that the father who raised me was not my father, unbeknownst to me. So that was a whole other incredible story. So I think, retrospectively, when I think about, the impact that it had, it has it comes later, because if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Right.
I often wondered, a lot of things, and things how I even found out was also very serendipitous. As my older sister, who was the one who compelled me to do the DNA and everything, she was convinced that I wasn't the same father, that my three, just, not only physical differences, but I really had this music in me. And so did my brother. I had an older brother who unfortunately passed away, and my sister did too. I've had quite a few losses.
I'm so sorry. My goodness.
And I do think that losing them and those losses, especially at such an early age, I guess having not had the choice to just give up, I had to survive, right? I mean, there was things that I had to move on in my life, and I wanted children, and I wanted to get married, all the traditional things. And but it was also just, never giving up, and just to continue to, that's to get from point A to point B, for the important things, to raising your children, having a roof over your head, working, having a, income to be able to provide, blah blah blah. It also applied to me from this desire to play music, and it wasn't so much for anybody else but for me.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be like the best therapy I could have ever given myself. Because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um,
And what a way to honor, your family of origin, to, to be able to live and feel the joy and channel it, and then be able to demonstrate it and give it back to other people and uplift them. You said, to watch the connection with you and the crowd, that's just something that's beyond amazing.
those moments are still so vivid in my memories, especially when we were performing at the Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale, because there, we're in the lobby lounge, and
Mhm.
so people are walking in and out, and there's disabled people in wheelchairs, and they're stopping, and they're like taking that time out of their whatever they're doing. They're on vacation, they're literally there, in Fort Lauderdale, and like could be anywhere, but they're stopping in this lounge to listen to this girl that they don't know who she is this guy who's playing guitar, and our percussionist who was on the bongos or whatever he was playing
Mhm.
at the time, and stop, and they'd smile, and then you're hearing their applause, and do another one, and we would take requests, and it
Mhm.
was just it was just joyful. It was just
Yeah.
joyful, and it really having, I kind of bringing it all back together with the losses that I have experienced as a since I was a baby. um, Having that kind of joy, and maybe also, just the recognition, the confirmation in some to some degree, that I could actually self be, be expressive in this very creative, intimate way,
Mhm.
and to see the response. It did. I mean, it just melted my heart. It really did. I really enjoyed seeing, especially the people that would like literally stop and sit, and from every walk of life, every background.
Mhm.
And it was just so joyful. Uh,
I
it,
love it. The whole reason I wanted to do this series is because I feel like we are all wired for connection. And you can kind of see what happens when people don't have it and how they can get lost and how they can go dark. And so it's such a delight for me to see how you have put your own soul print on how you allow yourself to be seen and connected to how connect to others. What is something you would tell another who maybe is thinking about, like, I don't know, I want to pursue this music thing, but I'm not sure. Like, is there any words of wisdom that you could share based on your own amazing experience and journey through this?
yes, don't give up. Yes, just take the risk, go for it. There is nothing more gratifying and more fulfilling if that is a dream that you have. And maybe you don't have the resources to go to the Berkeley School of Music, or have an instructor come to your home, or go out for lessons. There's the beauty of the world that we live in today is the technology and what's available to us online.
Yeah.
Listen, there's no question that if I didn't have the tools online, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Mm,
It's there, it's there, it's accessible. um you know I if it's there for you, don't let anything stand in your way. Give it all you can. Take the risk, go for it. Listen, I know that I sucked at times. And I would go into the studio and I would listen and I go, oh my goodness, this is just awful. But you just roll with it. Just roll with it, because this is how, who was it who said to me, if you don't make a mistake or something, you're not human, or you don't,
right.
you still have to, this is part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Why should you stop? Who cares? Just continue to go, go for it.
Yeah. I
um
really
yes,
appreciate
and I feel
that.
like, yeah, you just have, I mean, but in all honesty, thank goodness for the internet and for all of the things that are available to the self-learner such as myself.
And you really demonstrated that. And you just had to have a passion for it. I mean, nobody else would do it if they didn't really have a passion to, like, understand it. And not, you came to it later in life. So age should never ever be a factor, right?
Definitely
You're
not.
never too old to
Absolutely.
learn.
No, you're never ever too old. And for the most part, I'm doing this because it's for me. It's really not for anybody else. I think, it's just for me to to sit alone in my apartment and just play music, sing out loud.
Mhm.
Um, it's joyful. There's so much passion for me where it comes to music, and honestly, the fulfillment by itself, just that's another thrust that I would say to somebody. You're the fulfillment that you'll get, the rewards of giving it your all, of really just trying to go for it. You know, give yourself 5 minutes a day, like my guitar teacher told me. If that's all you've got, if you can do it for 5 minutes a day, eventually you'll begin to retain
Mhm.
stuff, and it'll come together. It comes together if it's in you.
Yeah. And to pay attention to what's in you, whether, it's art or, wanting to do the trapeze or like whatever,
Exactly.
whatever that
Absolutely.
desire is, like pay
Right.
attention.
Or, whatever your passion is, you know, it, it's really, it has to come from yourself, because sometimes we don't have the support. Sometimes in my situation, I didn't have the support of my
Yeah.
parents. They were busy. I mean,
Yeah.
it was I don't blame them. I mean, they did the best that they could. But I guess, at some point, if it's so strong within you, if there's a will, there's a way.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, the universe kind of like responds. It's like, the law of attraction. You put
Yes.
it out there, put it out there so much, and stuff starts coming back, and it's positive and it feels good. And it's like, okay, so this is good. So
I
yeah.
I'm I find you to be an amazing example of the human spirit and the just I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to let the fact that I didn't have the support when I was younger for various reasons, it doesn't matter. Right now is really what matters.
I
And
mean,
you can do it.
listen, I have to be honest with you. If I could do it, anyone could do it. Okay.
Oh
All
no,
right.
we have a
No, no,
piano.
no, no.
We have
Ah,
we have a piano, and my boys have played since they were young, and we have a baby grand in the living room downstairs. And
nice.
you make me inspire me. Like I cannot musical, you know what I mean? But I'm like, you're kind of igniting a little bit. Like, why don't you just go down upstairs and just sort of like tinker around and see what I can do?
Around. Put on a YouTube video, learn how to play the C chord, and then play it
Word.
over and over and over again. And then you can learn
Okay.
that one, learn how to play the F chord, and then play that over and over. It's truly, it's about the passion. It really is. If that's what you want to do, you can do it.
Wow, Jacqueline Berger, I am really impressed. And I'm just so grateful that you have spent this time with me talking about your life and your passion. And I know that this is going to ignite others' passions for whatever they're choosing to do. And you've just been a real gift to me today. And I just so appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking.
you.
And
Likewise, all of that right back at you.
thank
Honestly,
you.
it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure to